It's moving season. Folks are out donating their pre-loved items to St. Vinny's. So it's also a prime time to thrift that affordable furniture and clothing. Speaking of donating, did you know Vinny's does free at-home pickups across Dane County? Pack up your items, give them a call, and they pick up your goods for free. If you have bulky furniture, tables, couches, skip the landfill. Give your goods a second life. To schedule a home pickup, visit the website svdpmadison.org/home-pickups. Today on CityCast Madison. The fall partisan primary election is tomorrow, Tuesday, August 13th. Are you ready? To prepare you for tomorrow, we've been bringing you interviews on how to vote locally 101. What's on your ballot, including notes on district changes and referendum questions. And today, we're talking about one particularly spicy race, the primary for our next Dane County executive. Our longtime county executive, Joe Parisi, stepped down earlier this year, leaving open the top elected official seat in our county. Tomorrow, you'll vote on who advances. We sat down with local government reporter at the Cap Times, Allison Garfield, who's been covering the county exec race, to learn more about the candidates and the specifics of this race. It's Monday, August 12th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Allie.
Hi, Bianca. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. So happy to be here chatting with you.
Yes, well, we love to have you, and we've got quite the race to talk about. We are dedicating an entire episode to it because the Dane County race is a big deal. So Dane County's previous executive held the office for more than a decade. So it's been a long time since we've had a fresh face in this role. Can you explain simply what exactly does the county executive do?
Great question. Yeah, this is kind of new territory for all of us. We had Joe Parisi in office for 11 years. He did face some challengers during that time, but yeah, we've got some new folks in the game here who will essentially be the highest elected officer in Dane County and control one of the largest municipal budgets in the state. Yeah, the county executive essentially has the power to sign or veto measures passed by the county board, so the Dane County Board of Supervisors. You know, the Dane County executive manages government agencies and finances, oversees services, appoints department heads. There is a lot of things that go into this role, apart from being just like the face of Dane County, right? And what the county stands for, a lot of the things that we associate Dane County with, those can probably be traced back to the county executive. So some of the things that I think are interesting about former county executive Joe Parisi is he had this kind of great environmental, and by great, I mean just large, like environmental legacy here, because he was very passionate about conservation and sustainability. And so I think a lot of the things that people think of when they think of Dane County are things that Joe Parisi personally cared about and selected to put his time and energy and focus the county government on. And now, with a new person stepping into that role, we could see that continue, right? We could see that shift. Who knows what's going to happen? But a lot of that power rests with the executive.
Yeah, like they really set the scene for what our priorities are. Yeah, and the sort of the bigger initiatives that they take on really do, it does mean a lot.
There's a lot of reasons you should care about who the county executive is. I mean, if you use county services, which could be, you know, the public health department, it could be county parks, it could be, I mean, there's so many different pieces of the Dane County government, be it like waste and renewables, right? The landfill, the jail, these things that are super essential to how our community and society operates are all I guess, the money that goes into that at the end of the day, right? And how much money and what specifics that's going to, that is spearheaded by the county executive. So if you care about those public departments and those offices, you should care who is in charge of that, essentially, right? And who is going to appoint the people who are leading those departments, who's going to create the budgets. I mean, the department heads create, budgets, obviously, but who's going to create the county budget overall, which is just a huge undertaking. And we can get into why this election is so interesting in relation to the county budget, just in a pure timing sense.
The timing does matter. And in fact, who ends up being the executive, they'll be coming in like pretty much right around to the time for the budget approval. So the budget's been underway. So that's a really big deal. And let's talk about the race, because this is a race. Because it's been a long time since we've had a primary race for this type of position. So tomorrow, folks will vote to narrow the pool that it will take from the 4 people who are running down to the two finalists. And then they will vote on a winner who gets the role in that November 5th general election. So there are 4 candidates in the running: State Senator Melissa Agard, County Board Supervisor Dana Pelabon, Office for Equity and Inclusion Director Wes Sparkman, and Madison City Council Alderman Regina Vitavere. All of them are vying for the seat. So there are some real heavyweights in that list. In fact, I think all of them in their own right. Allie, can you give us a quick overview of who these candidates are?
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. This is a race. I think we can get to front runners and differentiating factors, right? But all of these folks have a lot of experience either in the community, over doing some kind of work in the community in some capacity in an elected role. So let's start with State Senator Melissa Agard, who Joe Parisi, the former county executive, endorsed. She is a born and raised Dane County gal. And if you ask her about her priorities, a lot of them stem from that background, right? She went to Madison East and UW-Madison and has slowly risen in the ranks, right? She was a Dane County supervisor. She's served in the state assembly and, has been serving in the state Senate and has quite a lot of experience. What's so interesting is a lot of that state experience it's just such a different role, county executive, right? You have a totally different wheelhouse and you have control over a lot less, partially because the county is preempted so much by the state. So that's like a very interesting thing about Agard. And then you have Dana Pelabon, who is a former county supervisor for the Fitchburg area, spent 2 years serving on the board, who has kind of like a varied work experience in the community. She is the executive director of the RCC Sexual Violence Resource Center, has spent decades working in homeless services and affordable housing. She's also a theater and performance artist, like catch her at the Overture Center performing in shows. Just a lot of different kind of experience than Agard. And that's what you'll notice about everyone in this race. They're all bringing something a little bit different to the table. Wes Sparkman also has lived in Madison for most of his life since coming to school here, is a scholar and has studied sociology and has a master's in public affairs and has served in so many different capacities as board chairs and on boards and on committees for the Rotary Club and the Rotary Foundation, and served 2 terms as the president of Madison's Police and Fire Commission. It's perhaps not as large scale Sparkman's experience as some of these other candidates here, but has definitely been in the community for a long time. And then Alder Regina Vitavere has been on the Madison Council since 2021, and then also works for the State Department of Health Services. She oversees the chronic disease and cancer prevention programs for the Division of Public Health. And so all of these folks have such unique backgrounds and bring such different things to the table, but they all have quite a lot of experience serving either in elected leadership roles or just overseeing these kind of larger bodies. So it's really interesting when you look at like the things that do differentiate them, which we can get into here.
Yeah, just like for anyone who's ever done hiring, looking at their background and trying to figure this out personally, I'm like, oh my God, like we have an abundance of riches, like an embarrassment of riches. There's deep experience and deep community ties and community coalitions. And yeah, I'm scared of you. I heard that's a phrase, just like talking about people who are just like, these are some bona fide folks, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing, right? Because at the end of the day, you're in a good spot with whoever you elect, right? Everyone's bringing something interesting to the table, and everyone has, strong backgrounds and strong experience here.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Whoa, landing an account this big will totally change my landscaping business. It's gonna mean hiring more guys and more equipment and new trucks for the new guys to drive the new equipment in. I don't know if I'm ready.
You can do this, and Ford Pro FinSimple can help. Our experts are ready to make growing pains less painful for your business with flexible financing solutions that meet the needs of your business today when you need them. Get started at fordpro.com/financing.
The candidates have faced off in debates. So like I've seen signs out Dana for Dane, signs for Agard, seen folks out politicking, but there are official debates that have gone down. Did anyone stand out in that arena? Like, are there any clear front runners from that?
What is interesting, and at the end of the day, I think when you look at the folks who are running to represent Dane County, a very overall progressive, liberal area, the things that are differentiating these candidates are minor and minute policy details. Overall, there has been nothing to me that is like one candidate is in stark contrast to the other, be it in criminal justice reform, be it in sustainability and how the county should approach environmental efforts. All of these candidates seem to understand what folks in Dane County have come to expect from their government and from their elected officials. The things that, yes, are differentiating folks are smaller scale details of, well, yes, when you look at criminal justice reform, what do you want that actually to look like, right? When you look at climate goals, right, and how maybe aggressive the county should be in terms of achieving some of these climate goals, what do you want that to look like? So at the end of the day, when you're deciding on who these candidates are, because they all ultimately have relatively similar values, it comes down to personal choice and personal decision and whose story is resonating with you. And when you listen to folks speak, what is resonating with you, right?
In which ways, then, have you seen the candidates trying to set themselves apart from each other? Is it through that personal story? Like Alder Vidavere, her working at the Department of Health and Services, like I felt like that was something that she leaned into. Or, Dana Pelabon, her experiences working with homeless, with resource-scarce communities. What have you seen the candidates outlining to try and set themselves apart from each other?
I do think, at least from what I've seen, it has been in their background and their approach, not so much on issues necessarily. So, like you said, Vidavere has worked, she has a lot of executive management experience, right? And so likes to stress that. And she is a scientist. And so she has differentiated herself as someone who makes decisions based on hypotheses, right? And is outcome oriented. But for Vitiver has been how she has, I think, set herself apart. For Sparkman, it's been his experience deeply rooted, right, in the community, perhaps not so much in these larger scale elected official roles, but because of his 26 years of service in various roles across Dane County, but including as the, director of a state department overseeing budgets, right? And so highlighting, I think, the management level experience there. For Pelabon, she has stressed her collaborative nature when she served on the county board and what that has given her that maybe other candidates don't have, right? That level of county board experience and the collaboration that needs to happen between the executive and the county board, which, has been strained in the past, and that can slow things down. So highlighting those relationships that she has built on that level and the trust in the community that she has built through that experience as a supervisor, I think is something that is unique about her as a candidate. And then, of course, for Agard, I think if we're talking about a front runner, it would be State Senator Agard. She's endorsed by Joe Parisi. She has the most endorsements just across the various local officials, state officials. She's the biggest name in this race, right? And I think that gives her an edge here. But she's highlighted how her work as the Senate Democratic leader to bridge gaps, right? Get things done across the aisle, pushing her progressive values. That translates, or she has, I guess, alluded to the fact that will translate as well at the county level. So this bigger picture message that will trickle down to the county and be effective at the county level. So I think when you're talking about differentiation, it's all about experience here. It's all about what kind of leader do you want and what kind of experience do you think is important for this person to have? Do you want someone who perhaps knows the intricate details of how the county board operates or how to put together a large-scale budget, right? So
absolutely,
it's not so much an issue-based race, I think.
Well, I have to say, you guys have done great coverage. So, I mean, I really just recommend for folks listening, and we'll link to that. You guys did interviews with the different candidates, got their takes on the issues and those things about their background. Isthmus had great coverage, WRT. So definitely, if folks want to learn more, because there's just so much. It's there's a billion details, and there are so many different ways to approach what goes into this job. And I did want to double down on what you said about the management position component, because there are over 3,000 county employees. So I really saw a lot of them leaning into what executive skills and leadership skills will be important to working across the aisle with people. We're working with your colleagues and actually collaborating to get stuff done. We got to talk about the issues.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into it.
That is one of the big issues is, right, obviously the budget and the executive nature of this job. Can you get stuff done and with other humans? That's a huge one. Relatedly, the executive, they will be needing to move pieces around and work with other leaders of departments and people like Calvin Barrett, our Dane County Sheriff, around the jail consolidation project. That was one of the issues we wanted to for sure touch on, that Madisonians are particularly aware of and interested in. So this is the long-awaited county jail consolidation project. What can you say about what you've heard about the candidates' stances on criminal reform and that issue?
Yeah, each one of these folks, I think, no one here is nah, let's not reform criminal justice in Dane County, right? Especially with the jail consolidation project finally moving forward, the most expensive project in county history, right? Dane County still has a systemic issue where the folks incarcerated the population does not reflect what the population in Dane County looks like. I think that is something that all of these candidates are aware of, right? Well established. It's not new news. And everyone that I've spoken to wants to implement some form of criminal justice reform. We've heard a lot about expanding the CARES program into the county, which is the Madison's Community Alternative Response Emergency Program. What a mouthful there. Essentially, it's the program that sends social workers and folks who are trained in de-escalation to behavioral health crises in the community, right? So instead of a police response, you're getting someone who is trained and knows how to specifically treat and tend to those situations. That system does not exist countywide. That's only in Madison. I'm pretty sure, Agard and Vitiver both stressed the fact that the county needs to figure out either some form of their own version of that, which is kind of being studied right now, or whether that's an expansion of CARES into the county. That's been something that we've heard across this campaign trail. For Dana Pelabon, who was one of the key members of the Dane County Black Caucus as the county jail project was being pushed through, she co-chaired the committee to create a restorative justice community court. And so she's a strong proponent of that and addressing the root causes of incarceration, right? And has expressed her interest to continue that work. And then for Sparkman, he's been a big advocate of focusing on rehabilitation, right? And alternatives to incarceration, but also preventing incarceration earlier on, right? Again, we're seeing a lot of talk about addressing the root causes. Now, what the specifics of that actually look like, that gets a little fuzzier, right? Some folks maybe aren't as specific about that. So that's something to keep an eye out for, I guess, generally when you're thinking about who you want to elect, of who knows the talking points and then who also has concrete plans to address that. And so that's just something for voters to, I guess, keep their eyes on throughout this, because you're going to get a lot of people saying the same things in this campaign trail, right, in this race.
Criminal justice reform is huge, and totally saw what you said. I feel like all four candidates have also said, like, let's keep, people brought up the fact that maybe it's going to be overflowing. It's not, it's going to be over capacity, that jail, even still. But I think I saw all four basically leading into, we need to reduce the number of folks going in. And CARES is also one of the wings of doing that. You know, just throwing out there really quickly, another component that's huge is housing. So I want to ask you about that. Madison is a growing city. Dane County is the fastest growing county in the state, and it's poised to add thousands of new residents in the coming years. What role can the county play in aiding that growth? Like, what ideas are candidates proposing around housing?
Absolutely. This is another one of those tricky ones where, right, it's easy to talk about this, harder to implement actual changes, especially when so many of the things that local government, cities and counties can do to ease the burden on renters, right? Make rent more affordable, create more affordable housing. A lot of that is preempted by the state. So you want someone who's going to be able to recognize that and who is willing to fight that, right? And someone who's going to be pushing back on maybe some of those restrictions on the state. When it comes to concrete steps you can take, a lot of folks will tell you the only way to make housing cheaper is to create more of it, right? So you should be looking out for folks who are leaning on the work and support of the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy Task Force, right? That's a mouthful there again, right? Folks who are going to work with other municipalities, right? Bolster resources and provide assistance, right? To create more affordable housing. We hear from all of these candidates that they want to create partnerships, right? To develop more affordable housing, be that with developers and new financing models, and looking for measures, right, to ease the pressure on the market. But when it comes to the literal things that you can do, it's limited. So you want someone who's going to be creative, I guess, and who's willing to get creative and perhaps think a little differently about this. And I guess I'll let voters figure out who they think who could do that. And I will point folks to the Cap Times, to the Isthmus, to the State Journal, to plenty of publications here who have done a wonderful job covering these issues and where the candidates stand on them.
This is tomorrow, so, this is just one more step. It's not the final decision on who will be our next executive for our county, but it will be narrowing it down from 4 to 2. So it's very much appreciated you giving us the time to tell us about your reporting and what we know about the candidates at this juncture. Allie, thank you so much.
Of course. I do want to quickly mention really fast that this is a special election happening in November. So tomorrow's primary narrows it down for the November election. That's a special election since Joe Parisi stepped down before his term was complete. There will be another election in the spring, and that will determine who serves the full 4-year term. So this person who you elect in November it's a good indicator, right, of who's going to probably step up to the plate again in the spring. But there will be another election on this next year. So keep your eyes out. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more.
Thank you for that note. And Allie, appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's Allison Garfield, local government reporter at the Cap Times. We'll link to her coverage in our show notes. And you can also head to our show notes for our earlier conversation with the city deputy clerk, Jim Verbick, for that one-on-one on how to vote tomorrow. And our recent conversation with Cap Times state government reporter Andrew Ball on what's on the ballot, including those 2 referendum asks. As always, happy voting. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with anyone voting in Dane County? Hey, knowledge is power. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, be well.